How are gun owners who bought firearms during that 6-day window where an injunction was in place, how are they going to be treated when the law is upheld, if the law is upheld? And are they going to possibly face some legal ramifications? Well, joining us now to talk about that here with Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY. Springfield's News and Talk is State Senator Jason Plummer. Senator, thanks for taking time with us this morning. Greatly appreciate it. And I want to get your reaction right off the bat here to Governor J.B. Pritzker and what he had to say in reaction to a question I posed following your news conference earlier this week. So here's the governor answering the question whether or not his administration is going to go after these individuals or the gun stores that facilitated these purchases.
Well, what the law says is that as of January 1 of 2024, that people will need to fill out the affidavit that they have one of those guns. That's really all it is. There's nobody going after anybody, but that is what the law says.
So the governor then went on to talk about the need for banning what he calls assault weapons. So, Senator, your reaction to this is the governor essentially threatening or not threatening to go after law-abiding citizens? Good morning.
Hey, thanks, Greg. I appreciate it. Well, first off, the governor's not entirely accurate there in his description of the timeline and how you can actually handle this, because obviously the 6-day window is a lot different than people that bought the guns right before the law went into effect. The other thing I would add, and this is really the crux of the matter, is what the governor just said is what we saw from the Illinois State Police and the Attorney General's office the minute that the federal judge in the Southern District of Illinois issued his injunction. That's all we asked for was guidance. Hey, this is different. This is unique. This impacts gun owners in Illinois. What guidance should we give them? And the Attorney General's office and the governor's office and the Illinois State Police didn't give any guidance to the people of Illinois, and that set a lot of law-abiding people who just want to do things the right way up to effectively purchase illegal firearms and potentially become criminals.
So you had mentioned during your news conference earlier this week that you're crafting legislation to somehow close this loophole you said is essentially entrapping Illinois gun owners and gun stores. Tell us about that measure and that you filed it yesterday. Is that right?
That's right. So it was filed yesterday, and some of my Senate colleagues co-sponsored it. And it's a narrowly tailored piece of legislation. I'm not trying to, unlike the governor, I respect the fact that there's 3 branches of government. I'm not trying to get in the way of the judiciary. I'm not trying to get in the way of the process regarding the original bill that went into effect in January. This bill's narrowly tailored, and what it does is what the governor and the attorney general should have done. It clarifies the consequences and the status of those folks who've acquired firearms while the various courts kick this law back and forth. Because the people that we're talking about are law-abiding citizens. They're people that want to do things the right way. My office, and I speak for a lot of legislators when I say this, my office was inundated with phone calls and emails from Illinoisans saying, hey, what does this mean? What am I supposed to do? How does this impact me when some of these rulings have gone out? And, I don't provide legal guidance. We immediately reach out to the state police. And in the state police's defense, they said, hey, the attorney general is effectively our counsel. We reached out to the attorney general's office, and they intentionally provided no guidance. Then they waited about a week after people had gone out and made lawful gun purchases. And they said, oh, no, that's illegal. Come January 1st, 2024, you're going to have to turn that weapon over or basically you're a felon. And what this law does is it goes in and it clarifies things for those law-abiding gun owners and those Illinoisans who are confused, and it makes sure that they don't get in trouble come January 1st, 2024.
Now, obviously, that's if the law is upheld. Do you foresee it being upheld? Here we advance towards that deadline of January 1st with the law being challenged in state and federal courts.
Right. Well, I think this is a short-term thing. we're trying to avoid the confusion and the potential danger for those Illinoisans. Ultimately, I do believe, I think it's pretty clear, and I think obviously there's judges that agree that the law has significant issues. It's an unconstitutional law, and I think eventually, especially through the federal court system, that the law will be tossed out at some point. But we can't control the timing of that. And when you have a state who is threatening to turn law-abiding, gun owners into criminals come January 1st, 2024, we need to make sure between now and whenever it is the federal courts throw this law out that Illinoisans aren't penalized for simply exercising their constitutional rights.
We're talking with State Senator Jason Plummer here with Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. So a lot of the focus has been on gun owners, Senator. What about those gun stores? And when I asked you earlier this week, the state's Gun Dealer Licensing Act allows for investigators to go and say to a gun store, hey, open up your books. Do state police have the resources to do such a thing? And what kind of concerns do you have that could be a reality?
So, obviously there's far more gun owners and prospective gun owners than there are gun stores. This legislation touches on all groups because all groups are in a tough spot here. I believe intentionally devised tough spot. I think a lot of your gun stores probably have the resources and the knowledge to go out and seek legal advice to they're parts of they're members of organizations that are trying to provide them guidance. Probably we're inundated with phone calls from gun owners who are extremely concerned. So I would say my focus is on the gun owners, but the gun stores, gun manufacturers, vendors, everyone falls into a little bit of this trick bag that was set up here by folks in Springfield. This law touches and covers all these people, the legislation that I've introduced, but ultimately, I think the gun owners are the ones that are going to be in a really tough spot because, there's people, Greg, around Illinois. I don't know about you, but I don't track federal court cases, and I don't, watch the news every day. And there's people that are just taking care of their family, going to work every day, went, bought a gun, paid for it, went through the background check, picked it up, took it home, and come January 2024, they're going to be felons per the Attorney General and the governor. And these people have no idea they did anything wrong, as you and I sit here and talk this morning.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I get paid to track this stuff, so I somewhat have a good understanding of where these cases are in the state and federal courts, and listeners have been plugged into that each and every morning we've been tracking this. We're talking with State Senator Jason Plummer, and of course, you've got just a handful of days left for the legislative session. Talk briefly about House Bill 1740, not dealing with the gun deal, but dealing with first responders, and that passed unanimously out of the Senate and is headed towards the governor. What's this bill all about?
Yes, that passed through the Senate yesterday, and Charlie Meyer, State Representative Charlie Meyer from Oakville in the House, carried that bill in the House. He's been working on that quite a bit, and he and I kind of tag teamed this. It's a bill. It's really targeted towards some rural communities that effectively don't have emergency services when it comes to ambulances and medical response teams, and it allows some units of government to basically come together to create ambulance districts to make sure that the citizens that live in those areas have the coverage they need to have confidence that there's an emergency, they're going to be able to receive care. A lot of communities, especially in my district, and the genesis of the bill came from some communities in my district in the Clinton County area, was that we had fairly decent-sized communities that didn't have ambulance services, and we had one town that was, had services and was providing services to the other areas, but they effectively just couldn't afford to do so anymore. And the lack of coverage elsewhere imperiled some of their citizens. So these communities are going to join together, create an ambulance district, and make sure that Illinoisans down there have the care that anybody would expect to have if they needed it.
State Senator Jason Plummer, that's all the time we've got. We'll have to connect with you again sometime early next week, as the legislature has about 5 days left after today to enact a budget, and curious what kinds of things are going to be left on the cutting room floor. So we'll connect again sometime early next week. Appreciate your time this morning.
Hey, thank you, Greg. I appreciate it.
It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk, and we got to take a break.